Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning to wherever you're joining us from today. Welcome to a Microsoft Reactor live stream event. So today we have a great panel of 5 women who will engage on a variety of topics on AI/ML and advanced analytics, covering their AI journey and the challenges of diversity and inclusion in the data science space. So just a reminder that it is a Teams meeting today. So when you're joining as an attendee, please keep your mics and cameras on mute. And any questions you have, please ask them in the comments section, or there will be an opportunity at the end to come off mic and camera potentially and ask us your question on camera. So we'll be speaking for about 45 minutes with about 5 to 10 minutes for questions at the end. However, do send us your questions throughout and we'll try and answer as many as possible. We'll also add the additional links to the Q&A section, including our survey with the event code. So if you have time to fill that out, it would be greatly appreciated. And just a reminder to be aware of others in this meeting, be friendly and patient, be welcoming and respectful, be open to all questions and viewpoints, be understanding of differences, and be kind and considerate to others. That is our code of conduct that I will just remove off the screen in a second there. So I would also like to introduce you guys briefly to everyone who's joining us on our screen today, all the lovely faces. So first of all, we have Priyanka Shah, who we've got at the top there if you want to give us a wave. She is a Microsoft AI MVP based in Singapore. She'll also be leading and moderating today's session. You'll also see on your screens we have a Kanksha Malik, who is a veteran with us at the Reactor. She's presented with us several times before. She is also a Microsoft AI MVP based in Melbourne, Australia. And we've got Lizzie Thomas. Apologies if I said that wrong again. She's a Microsoft AI MVP based in the United States. And we've got with us Rita Tiffy, I don't know. I'm so sorry with that one. She works in the AI area led and customer success in the APAC region for Microsoft in Singapore. And last but not least, we have Dr. Julia Gaskova, Cloud Solution Architect in Data and AI, and she also works in Microsoft and based in Singapore. You can read more into their bios on our Meetup page as well, which I'll share with everyone later in the chat. Also, just a reminder, we will be recording this session and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if there's anything you wanted to reference back from today, you can do so on our YouTube channel in the next 24 to 48 hours. But for now, I will hand the floor over to Priyanka to begin. So thank you so much, and over to you.
So much, Sarah, for all the introductions, and welcome, ladies. Thank you for making this happen, and I'm so excited today to be welcoming all of you and having this AI women in AI chat session, right? So me and our participants, we hope to learn a lot about real life AI ML today, the challenges we face as women in AI technology space, and a lot around what is going to happen in AI, what are some of the next avenues opened up by data science AI. So let's get started. All right. So for all the audience members, thank you for joining us. And whatever questions, comments, suggestions you have, please feel free to use the Teams chat to do that. So I also have 3 graduates with me here in the room from NUS NTU, right? So they are also the torch bearers of the next generation of women in AI. So yep, they'll be also wanting to ask a lot of questions to our panelists here. All right, so without much ado, let's get started, right? So to all the panelists here, right, working in and out, day in and day out as champions of data science, AI, machine learning, cloud computing, and data, what does your typical day look like? So yeah, I mean, I would love to hear from all of you. How does your typical data AI day look like? Yeah, start. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Akanta.
Right, I'll kick it off, and this is going to be an annoying one to answer because I work in consulting. So my day-to-day tends to depend on whatever my client's day-to-day feels like that day. But to kind of take a step back from it, like for consulting in general, you either are on a client and you're not on a client. So maybe I'll explain the two different ones. So I lead the AI and ML practice at Altus. So when I'm not on a project, most of my work is around getting us onto projects and talking to clients and seeing what their problems are, discussing how we can maybe bring AI into their business and make things better for them, or answer some questions that they've got happening within their business context. And if I am on a project, my day-to-day tends to look like, again, it'll be different within the project too, because projects change and what you're doing on a weekly basis will change. But throughout a project, it's usually kind of, right, this is our project problem, get everyone on board, help the stakeholders understand what we'll be doing. And then over the next couple of weeks, you actually start building your solution and then explaining that solution back to the clients. Because when you're in consulting, highly likely that you're on a project because there isn't any other SMEs or people necessarily understand what you're working on. So that's kind of a really big part of my life, is just explaining AI back to people or what we're trying to accomplish. A lot of statistical explanations happen, which is always interesting to kind of figure out and how to meander through it. But a lot of communications back and forth, and then usually a actual handover of this is what we built and this is what we're handing back over to you, which is actually a part of the project that I'm on right now, in the process of handover right now.
Yeah, Rita, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, in my day-to-day, I work with a wide range of profiles. So whether data scientists, data engineers, but also I work with other IT folks, and obviously also with the customers, and it can be like very high-level people like CXOs as well as business owners. So my day-to-day life is a mix between building models, at the same time trying to design solutions that are like kind of end-to-end between what we do from a data perspective, from an application standpoint as well. And then at the same time, like connect with people to really like have this AI hub with the overall Microsoft teammates that I have, but also externally, like working with partners, working with other people that, again, really like get to that level of expertise of what we can do with AI today.
And I would just add on top of what Rita said, because we both come from Microsoft. So I would say like the days depend. And sometimes these are the days where you have to build the solution architecture, and this is where you need the breadth of your knowledge. But then there will be days and actually customers coming with you with issues which you need to solve. And this is where you need to really go technically deep. And this is where you dive and you use your technical expertise with them. So I would say it's important to have a combination of being able to go to cover the breadth and then go deep when it's needed.
I really don't have much to add over all what everyone has said, but I think I guess you would agree as well, Priyanka. The day-to-day of really an AI champion is about managing expectations 360 degrees, right from your customers, internal, external stakeholders, going back to your team, morning to evening, just managing expectations in terms of this will work, this will not work, we got to call it, this is where the buck stops, you got to be brave enough to say that, just managing expectations 24/7, 365 is, I guess, if you ask me what I do all day, like all year round, I feel like I'm just managing expectations all around.
True. Right. And absolutely, Liji, to that, to the context which all of you set, I want to probably because Rita works a lot in customer success, right? And also the AI area lead. So because we talked about setting expectations, so right, inadvertently, most of the businesses now have some budget for implementing AI ML. So you go to any, like probably it's like a manufacturing oil and gas client, and then they have like, by 2023, I have this Azure Digital Twin implementation scenario and stuff like that. But is there, any experience which you have had where you've really, the customer is not really ready to onboard that journey? And like you have to be at a basic level to then implement AI. And businesses have these targets, but most of the time they are not there. The maturity is not there. The scale is not there. So how do you go about addressing these issues? Because for Microsoft, they are customers at the end, right? I mean, for consultants like me and Akanksha and Liji, we still might have, a luxury to say, no, hey, we don't deal in this. But as Microsoft, you really don't have an option. So do you have any, experience or stories to share around that? Rita?
Yeah, I can go first. So definitely, and I actually kind of, really feel that that's resonates a lot with a lot of my customers. So basically, as Ligi said, you have to manage expectations. And when it comes to AI, there are a few aspects that are going to really help, delivering the right value. And one of them is really about the maturity of your customer. So a lot of customers come with their very high expectations, and they think like, they can deliver whatever solution in no matter and no time, right? So that's the thing. You need to really assess where they are in their maturity process, starting with, what are their practices, where they are in terms of their data platform, where are they also in terms just of culture, because, there is no AI project that can be delivered if the company culture is not there, if the strategic aspects of what is going to be built from the company side is not there yet. So that's for me one of the things that is very important. So one of my experience was around predictive maintenance, and you gave the example of the oil and gas company. So I liked it because it's really one of the industry that we work a lot with. So that was actually one of the requirements from the customer, asking for us to actually go and build up a solution that will help them really anticipate whenever there's any failure into their assets. And basically for us was like straightforward kind of approach. Let's go build up the model that will actually not only predict but also give them like the right recommendation in terms of resources. But when we started actually to work with them, just realized that they didn't have the data. So basically whatever they shared with us was just like assumptions. So, because we saw some analytics from their different reports, most of them were actually coming from, either assumptions or from generic reports that they got from the industry. So obviously, whatever we wanted to do is just not possible, like in a straightforward kind of approach. So again, we had to go back and, start actually do some, digging in terms of what can be done from, a realistic standpoint. And then, of course, the first part that we did is to really assess and analyze what was feasible from a data standpoint. So that was one of my experience.
The perfect story which all of us face. Customer is like on a pen and paper, and they expect us to build rockets. So, all right. Anyone else? Julia, Akanksha, Liji, you have such interesting sort of customer stories to share with us.
I would probably just add briefly that it's also like first question, do they even have data? So that's what it was Rita's experience. In my experience, sometimes it was a question like they tell you, yes, we do have data, but when you start digging into it, you realize that 80% of it, you can't even use it. So that's the real life example. Right. And then and then you start like actually looking at the map, like, okay, so this is your end goal. You want to have this type of solution which leverages AI and ML capabilities. How do we get there? And often it's a discussion, okay, so how do we build a collection of the data and how do we make it as a process? How do we ensure the quality of the data which we gather? Like what, and all the surrounding infrastructure. So I would say like for me, a lot of these conversations about bringing AI and ML into the customer environments, that they also start like, what about the data platform? What about the security? Like, what about the data management? Is this already in place? So that's
I think a slightly separate perspective to that, and just to add into it, and this is something I've seen in the last couple of projects, it's really interesting how intrigued clients get about getting some kind of intelligence in there. They just like, especially the higher up you go into a business, they're like, AI, we just want the buzzword. We want to be able to say we've got intelligence built into our solutions. We want to be able to sell that. And then the salespeople get involved, like, yes, oh my God, all our clients are going to love this. And it's a real spiral on effect, right? Which is great. Like, you need that culture, like Rita talked about. That culture needs to be there to be able to actually implement this. But the other aspect that I've seen recently is where, okay, great, I've gone in, we've built this project, we've built out a whole kind of environment ready to be able to do this. but they don't have the people then to maintain that afterwards. The actual skill set required that, okay, maybe I've built a model, great, it works, maybe, I don't know yet. But how's that model going to go over time when there's data drift happening or there's a slight change in context? COVID's hitting. How do we deal with this new data that's being collected and the whole complete shift in the context behind it? So it's really, really important. And I think a lot of clients tend to fall into that gap of, hey, we've got someone in, they're going to do the work without really sometimes checking whether it's sustainable work that can be maintained by their business, whether that's the people they already have or hiring someone else. I think that kind of aspect tends to be forgotten a little bit in terms of budgeting for that solution.
I felt for the AI, the silver bullet phenomenon myself, kind of fell really hard earlier on. To that point, I think nowadays I take 2 steps back when I see a very excited client to probably ask. I've had the experience of every sort of customer. For example, if I were to we were building a conversational AI bot, for example. If you ask the customer, what do you want? The first thing the customer will tell you, I want an Alexa. Well, yeah, but the world, do we need another Alexa in the world is the question. And do you definitely need an Alexa is my question. So sometimes we have to sit with the customer to help them understand what they really want, because thanks to all the clickbait articles, their understanding of the possibilities of AI would be probably unrealistic or quite different from what is, actually what they really need. Technically, perhaps possible, but do you really actually need that in your business? So maybe taking 2 steps back and setting a very realistic expectation with them, because ultimately, that's what happens. You can get it to that, but then more than 15% of the AI projects do not really get adopted into the organizations because they don't have like change management, they don't have the culture, they don't have, and you can kind of go back and why did I create this in the first place without, with the lack of all of this. So.
Priyanka, you are on mute.
Absolutely. We all share the same pain and same cliches. So yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. But further to that question, right, where we actually talked of addressing the client situations, questions, issues, setting expectations. But then, do you think that we as women in technology face some sort of an obstacle, right, with the client trust? The client is not really ready to open up to you, share their requirements very clearly, right? Or even like if I tell them, like, advise them that, well, you are currently at stage B, and to reach your stage probably D or the later stage, you might have to do these kind of transformative steps initially. And then if that was conveyed to them probably by my male counterpart or someone, a bit senior looking, they probably are more easily convinced, right? So just a very quick example of that. We were at a client site and everything was set up. The conference room was ready. The PPT was all shared and ready to go. And I was waiting for the client to lead, right? To start like. And then we spent the first 10 minutes in silence. And then I was like, yeah, I mean, XYZ, Mr. XYZ, yeah, why don't we start? He was like, yeah, but where's your boss? I'm like, no, I'm the boss. I am going to do this. And he was like shocked. He was like, I mean, of course, he came from a very, old, probably previous generation. And then he was like, oh, I thought you were the admin. I was like, oh, wow, that was like a classic stereotype. So yeah, I mean, do you think that we as women have suffered this sort of obstacles when we head out to help our clients?
I can start first. I have many stories where I completely felt same situation as you. I worked actually with different countries, very complex countries like Kuwait, Japan, India. I've been to Saudi Arabia. So one of the comments, one of the things I've seen in common is that it takes time for us to build credibility as women. Because at the very beginning, as you said, I remember in Russia that one day I was actually presenting to a customer, and initially he thought I was the assistant, so he didn't even pay attention to me. So that's one of the things, you know, you will actually face quite regularly, and especially if you're actually covering different types of countries. But then one of the story that I had, and I felt really, you know, that is something that can actually kind of evolve, is I was actually going to Kuwait for a customer presentation, and that was actually a customer technical presentation for, you know, one of the projects that we were doing with a telco company. And when I arrived in the meeting, then the sales guy, who's Kuwaiti, told me like, Rita, don't take it for you. The guy is not going to talk to you. So he's going to actually ask me the question. And then ultimately, you're going to be the one, you know, giving the answers, but I will be like the one in the middle. But don't take it personally. It's just like cultural, whatever things. So I was like, okay, sure. So we started the meeting, and obviously the guy started to talk, you know, through that middleman to me. And then after maybe 5 minutes, because we were talking about that science, and you know, we were like trying to resolve a problem that was like really around the algorithms, how we can actually get to. He forgot about it, and then he started to talk to me, and I felt like, you know, a bit of success. Like I've been able to change that guy and make him forget that I was a woman. And you know, at the end of it, you know, because I didn't take it like, okay, I'm not going to even go there. And I know a lot of women who would react like, don't even go to Kuwait because these guys are not actually affecting women. I felt like, okay, if we keep like, you know, fighting through this kind of, you know, behavior, then we can like make small success, and ultimately we can change the mindset. So that's my story.
I would probably continue on this note of challenges. I had experiences similar to Rita's, but I also noticed that as a woman, I often have to prove myself way more than my male colleagues. And it can come in such a different shapes. So I was at some point in the meetings where I would be questioned on the technology which I'm talking about. And these questions, the moment I hear them, I understand that's not the real question. That's more about like to test whether do I even know like the topics I'm talking about, like, and can I go like and especially when it's the more high level discussion, can you go like from the high level to extreme depth in less than 1 minute? And that was my experience. I would say the first times, like when I faced it, it was quite stressful because you're literally being put on the spot in front of usually the C-level stakeholders or VPs, and it's not only about you, right? It's also about the company you represent. So it's a lot of pressure, but I would say like the moment you manage through it, um, it at least in my experience, the credibility builds up, and this for me that only happened like maybe on the first interactions. So I would just say, don't give up. Don't give up. Go do your due diligence, get ready for all these meetings. Yes, this could be at situations you can go through which ideally should not be there, but it's not a reason to give up like what you like doing. That's for sure.
I might jump in. Like, it's funny. It's not really funny. We laugh and we smile and we're like, oh yeah, that happens. Not really acceptable, but like, what else are you meant to respond with? But I think it's an interesting one where I think I've been a bit lucky. I haven't necessarily faced it at that level where I'm like, oh, that's definitely what's happening. Have I felt like, oh my God, I am so young and I'm going into this meeting pretending to know things? Sorry, I do know things, but like as a persona, being like, yeah, I'm the expert. I'm definitely not an expert in everything, don't get me wrong, and I know that. But from a client's perspective, when they've gotten a consultant coming in, that's what their persona of you is. And I think like that, it's definitely like an internal thing too, where I'm just like, oh, what am I doing here sometimes? That happens all the time. And over time, what I've realized is having the right culture of your own workplace helps a huge amount. Because especially now in a more senior position, what I notice is when my teammates and my colleagues and the other people in sales delivery and account management they do the hard work for me, where they have already talked me up and they're like, yep, no, she's the expert. She knows what she's talking about. She's coming in. You're going to love her. She'll be here to talk to you next week when she has the time, because she's on X number. Like, they've done all the hard lifting for me to help navigate that, and I don't have to deal with it necessarily as much because they've done that for me. And that's definitely just part of a really good culture to have around you, to be honest. And coming up from a grad position and building up through the different layers of meetings and stuff, and you start seeing this, and it really has such an impact, especially at that early level of, oh, Akansha's been the one in the depths of this project. She'll be the one to talk about exactly what's going on in there, rather than maybe the managing consultant on that project who kind of comes in and checks every so often. And even just that person saying that to the client makes such a difference of, okay, cool. Like, they don't have time to question whether or not I know what's happening, because that level's already been set. And so, I mean, that it really, really helps. And this is something I talk about all the time, where I'm like, figuring out a good culture and what you need to succeed in a workplace, it's magical when you figure it out. And to figure it out, I don't know how to do it other than having gone through really, really good ones. And I'm like, oh, those are things I need. And I got lucky that my first job was one of those where I was like, oh, this is what a good culture is. Oh my God, I can never live without this. And that's now my bar that's been set. Anytime I go and like start looking, like I moved jobs last year, and I was like, oh, I'm not looking at anything below this. Like, this is my bare requirements. And if you can't meet that, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work. And outside of work, so obviously after lockdowns and stuff, I went to my first conference, and I was on a booth for a company a couple of weeks ago now, maybe 2 months ago. And I had forgotten what it's like to be at a tech conference. The virtual world, you do kind of forget those kind of interactions a bit. The whole where someone gives you the we call it the dead fish here. I don't know if you've heard that term, where they try and shake your hand, but it's the most like limp, like you're just touching my hand now. This is not a handshake. Why did you even bother? Like, this is just an awkward interaction, because they're just like, oh, you're the other person on the booth. Or people would come up to the booth and they would assume that I'm there as the marketing person, which was riling. But at the same time, again, I had my colleagues there. They were like, no, this is Concha. She's their ML lead. Like, they'll do the hard work. But when they're not there and I have to do the hard work myself, you can always see the switch that happens in someone's perception of you, of like, oh, and what do you do? And this happened to me, where like this guy came up, literally talked at me for about 15 minutes. And then finally was like, oh, and what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm the AIML lead here. He's like, and his face just changes, and he realizes he's like talked down to me for the last 20 minutes. And in those scenarios, I just don't care. Like, I know what I have no interest or engagement in this conversation anyway. There's other scenarios where I like start off on the bat with that. I'm like, no, that's who I am. That's just, I will set my own expectation, and that's what I expect going forward. But yeah, it's an interesting place to manage. But workplace, definitely get good people around you who will help do the heavy lifting with you.
I'll quickly piggyback on what Akansha says. I cannot enough stress on the importance of having great allies at work. I'm always asked, what advice would you give to women? What advice? And I'm like, forget the women. They know what they're doing. Their stuff. Like, they've got this. Like, you have to. How about getting the systems in place? How about getting the teams and the organizations in place? I give you a very small example. Very small example. Something that I kind of had to experience, like, this week and last week. So it's in a customer conversation, and this just the first 5 minutes of just brief introductions around the table, and we go around the table and like making those quick introductions. I had my skip level boss come in, stop at the end of everyone's introductions. He took a minute to stress, I must say Liji is extremely modest with her introduction. She is an MVP in AI. No reason for him to have said that, but he had to come in and make a statement on my behalf. That kind of, like what Akansha says, sets the stage. Like, I don't have to do a lot of work for myself. That having people to do that kind of work for you is not to be taken light note of. So.
Which is why also, I feel lucky to work in organizations like Avanade, Microsoft, Altus, and Valorum, right? Where we are valued, diversity, inclusion is valued. We have practices and HR policies in place, right? And our organizations practice what they preach, right? So absolutely, like, this is the benchmark, and we can't do lesser than this. So yeah, kudos to our organizations as well. And but that brings me to our next question, right? So for example, Rita, Julia, the Code Without Barriers initiative for Microsoft, right? So Can you shed a bit of light on that, how it is helping to inculcate a culture and sort of encourage even more women to join the AI journey?
Yes, so maybe let me start. So Code Without Barriers is the initiative which we run in Microsoft, and it focuses on all the different pillars which can help to bring more women into not only in the data and AI, but into the technology space in general. So we do have an education pillar because getting the necessary skills to enter the data and AI space is something which could be seen as a barrier, and providing this platform for women to actually go and get trained and get certified is a really big chance for them to actually make this step into the industry and actually have a successful career over there. And of course, that's not possible without mentorship, which is another area where we try to work, because it's so important to have a mentor who will guide you on your way. So maybe who will remove some obstacles which you might hit, or just to give you support for this journey, because like we've heard about like all these different challenges and how it could be different when the culture is there, right? So also it is important to provide an opportunities about for career, and that's something what we just finished in June. So that's been a pillar I've been working on for quite some time, for quite a few months. So we've been running a hackathon with our partner and customer organizations. Hackathon was focused on different AI and data problems, which women who aspire to be in this industry could address, and then they not only they had the opportunity to actually go for the interviews, for the internships or positions, but they also had a platform where they could practice presenting their solutions, hear how other people, how other women do, and actually hear all the different stories about like how each of them got into that hackathon, what are their goals, like what are their backgrounds. And I would say like my personal experience, I've sit into in one of the rooms where women were presenting their solutions, and I was amazed with the quality and with passion which those women have. And for me, it was like, it was something so motivating to continue working on this. So because when you see this type of talent coming into the industry, it's really inspiring, and it gives you this motivation. Okay, we're doing something right, we need to continue doing, and maybe in the future things will be different. I would remove the word maybe from here. Yeah. And last but not least, I would like to mention our like awareness pillar, and that's where we have a podcast on Spotify. So we try to bring the awareness, and we try to bring different leaders from the industry to talk about their career journeys, right? We bring women with tech skills to share about their path, and that's more to drive the attention to these type of careers, to actually promote the interest and give some examples of how success could look like. So yeah, but I would personally say it's good when organizations work on this and try to make changes in the diversity and inclusion, but it's also about each and every one of us, right? So sometimes it may be like helping your colleague, sometimes it may be like helping your friend, and it might not only be the technical help, right? Sometimes it's more of a moral support, right, to push through some of the challenges or some of the like whichever they may be. So yeah, that's that's from my experience what we do on diversity and inclusion.
And just kudos to Julia, because she did a tremendous work on getting all of this like working together. And just want to add one more thing, is just like Code Without Barrier is one of the initiatives. There are many initiatives even outside of the organizations that women can be part of. I personally try to look at all the opportunities to give back to the community. So I worked with many actually non-profitable associations, even in Singapore, that are working with women, like like things like She Loves Data or Singapore Council for Women, where we have like this kind of impact that we can actually really build. So I really encourage all the ladies here who are already doing a great job on their area of expertise to look at this kind of initiative.
Which is, sort of sets the stage for the next question, because a lot of women who participated in these events, hackathons and CWB, they came back saying, they were feeling empowered because of all these low code, no code platforms, ML, which we have, right? So a slightly technical question, Liji, Akanksha, feel free to chime in, right? So a slightly technical question, because I have interns also here with me in the room. So with all these advent of these low code, no code platforms, do our data scientists need to fear? Like, is it going to sort of change the landscape for data scientist, machine learning, or AI engineer job profile? Any thoughts on that?
Can I jump in? Because literally the last 3 projects I've done have used AutoML. And I think it's always been my favorite product, honestly. I've talked about it for the last like 4 years. That's all I talked about at this stage. Like, I get roasted all the time. We're like, oh, here's a content, you'll talk about little code. Like, it's become a joke, but it's also like a part of my branding now. But I consider myself a data consultant and someone who works in data, and I'm very passionate about it. I'm still here. I've still got a job, still going, and I'm still using these technologies. It's not getting rid of me anytime soon. And I think about this a lot, and I think a lot of people kind of think of it as it's just making every other person a data scientist, and everyone's just, yes, I mean, that's already happening regardless of low code applications happening. Everyone wants to be a data scientist because it's the cool new job to have. So everyone says that they're a data scientist. It happens all the time. And whether or not they understand statistics or all these other nuances around it, they'll just call them that anyway. What this is doing is it's just helping other people get into that same brand. With a bit more backing behind it, I think. It gets the doors open so much easier, regardless of how in-depth and technical you want to go into AI with it. It's giving you the opportunity to get your hands dirty with it. And I do that a lot, where I've done workshops and stuff around it. I'm like, hey, we're going to be here 2 hours, and at the end of the 2 hours, you're going to leave with a machine learning model that you have built, which has solutions, and you can understand what they mean. And the people's just like, everything changes, and they're like, oh, I did that. Oh, okay, it's not that bad. Like, it's fine. And even just that change helps people get involved. Tech has just become this thing, and I talk about it all the time with friends who run Women to Code with me and all these other things. Like, it was made unnecessarily hard. There's no reason for it to be as hard as it is. It was done to gatekeep, and because at the start it was so hard to get involved with it, there's still people who gatekeep because they're like, oh, I had to go through all this. Why do you get to get in so easily? And that still exists, which means this is my favorite product to talk about all the time. Low code, get people involved. But to the people who are like, well, I still want to be really technical and I really want to build my own models. Great, go work for places that are giving the opportunity like this. AutoML doesn't work with no ML behind it. It requires teams and teams and teams of really, really smart people doing really, really technical work, which is available for you to go work with and build those models for exactly the kind of requirements you have. So yeah, there's definitely a place for everyone. I'm just very passionate about this one, but I'm like, yeah, anyone who comes in and is just like, ugh, it's just dumbing this down. It's not. It's making it so much better and diverse and accessible. I can keep going, but I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, I fully agree with what Akanksha has said. If there's something good that has happened in the tech industry, how much AI has changed from the time I've started learning about NLP models in my college time, it's just the difference in the level of gatekeeping that is actually there. And even with Microsoft, the fact that industry giants are open to democratization of AI services is a huge step forward in just making it accessible in that way to people from different skill sets, different backgrounds. Definitely does not throw a data scientist out of their job. I don't think so. The difference probably is in a very, very simple way to say that, and I don't think this is just for the data scientists. This goes for my engineering team who's using GitHub Copilot. Asked me this day, like, I'm like, that's a co-pilot at the end of the day. Get it? It's a co-pilot. So that's all it is. A copywriter could use an AI writing assistant. It's an AI writing assistant. That's what it is. So there's a difference between a teacher in a class who uses AI may not be as challenged as a teacher who is not using AI. So the difference is between a doctor who uses AI and a doctor who does not use AI. It's not the doctor versus AI, the teacher versus AI, the data scientist versus a low-code, no-code developer. That equation is a little more nuanced than that. So I'm very excited for the low code, no code, and just the concept of democratizing AI services and making it available to what we call citizen developers or everyday developers. Like my HR executive wants to do a more efficient job. I mean, why not? Like give her the opportunity to do that. So why does it have to be, why does a 10-member data scientist team have to be a blocker there? So I think it's a very exciting thing to have in our industry. We should be proud of it.
Like technology also being inclusive, right?
Yeah.
Technology having its own inclusive platform, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and just very quickly, I think AutoML yes, but with responsible approach. So that's the only thing that I want to say.
Yeah.
No code, no code, they open a wide array of different roles, possibilities, right? Like you have all these ethical, responsible AI frameworks that open different job scopes, profiles. Yeah. And anyways, data scientists, like Akanksha said, right, are going to be needed for the research. Anyways, I mean, for building those low code, no code platforms. Absolutely right. And because we are talking of all these low code, no code, and revolutionary AI, right? So AI was a buzzword probably, let's say, few years ago, right? And now people are already talking of quantum. So because Dr. Julia, you've been involved in quantum. So what are your thoughts on, is quantum the next thing? Are we ready for that quantum leap yet?
I would say, are we ready is a very good question. And we'll know in the coming years. But I would definitely say that right now, quantum machine learning is a buzzword. And but I would not say that this is with negative connotation, right? Because the term itself actually brings both quantum computing and machine learning together. And what that actually means is that sometimes you can use quantum hardware for the machine learning algorithms, and that will give you an advantage. So for and that will give, if we are talking in quantum terms, that we are talking about the quantum speed up. What about being able to solve and train your models way faster than it is now? And what about being able to have the outcomes which will be outperforming the classical models? That's also possible with quantum machine learning. And if we are talking about this area of research, there is also research about like the algorithms for machine learning, which will be different from what we can say as classical machine learning. So there is an active research in the field of quantum machine learning algorithms, and for example, quantum clustering, which can also give us a powerful tool we can use in the future. But I would say, as with the technology which is in the development, it is important to understand that if we're talking about like, are we ready to adopt it? The adoption of the technology, and even like if we look back with computing, required a certain level of maturity and availability of the hardware, for example. And quantum computing right now is an emerging field, right? So although we see the trends when cloud providers actually give you access and ability to go and try out, like maybe design your own algorithms and potentially to run them on the quantum hardware. But this is not yet at the place where it could be widely adopted. We still need to go through some years of research and development of this to be able to bring it to the industry at the scale which we have now, for example, with cloud computing, right? So this, I would say, like this is an evolution process of evolution and development, and of all the topics, I really believe that there will be time when quantum computing will be in our like portfolio of the technologies which we could use on different projects.
Very sorry for that. All right. And also, because you've been talking a lot about AI for good, AI for better initiatives, right? So quickly, each one of you. Okay, we start round robin. One project where you made real life impact, right? So let's say it could be AI for environment, AI for, I don't know, accessibility. So each one of you, one project where you think the projects have worked and helped do some real life impact.
I can start. My project was AI for healthcare. So that was actually a long time ago, at the very beginning of using Python actually, and OCR. And what I worked on was actually with one of the major research agency in France to help out identify and detect some of the cells anomalies that we could actually detect in advance for any cancer high probability. So that was one of the things that I felt really proud about.
Vijay?
I would not have customer stories to say to that, but I love to do this as part of my AI talks and AI stories that I say as part of my demos. It is the only way I can try all of this out. One of the demos that I did, the little POCs that I tried out, was around the concept of using AI for better accessibility just in our workplaces and our teams. And especially that when we started working remote and the hybrid culture set in, we have been a little more, I think, globally as a workforce, been a little more cognizant about the language that we use in our workplaces, especially the ableism that is involved. So I tried working around to create a conversational bot which kind of calls out if in in a Slack conversation or in a Teams conversation, if you tend to use the ableist language, it can be pretty vulnerable for someone else on your team to call out and say that you might want to try something else, which is always very courageous of them. But if a bot would like to just flag that content and say, and it could be very technical terms as well, simple as if someone says that, oh, I whitelisted that IP. So the bot will say, would you like to consider another term for whitelist? A recommended term could be so, and probably give you the context as well. So you kind of create the backend for that, the database for that. And with natural language processing, you identify terms that happen in those conversations. And in very subtle, in very, very nice ways, recommend alternate suggestions an example, I hope someday I will be able to open source and will be able to, use the community's effort for that as well. But yeah.
All right, yeah, that's interesting. Akanksha?
I love that. And I was like sitting here trying to think of what to talk about, this is a great one because it's inspired me my own one. But like recently enough, and it was similar to what you said, where it was like, I've been trying out different things and ends up becoming one of those things of where is the time to try out specific products and when do I try them if you don't have a specific project. But kind of like what Julia mentioned earlier, I've also got a podcast, Pats Uncovered, where we talk about people career changing and how do they figure it out, what do they do and where do they go with it. And I tried my best to make it as accessible as possible, right? I was like, yeah, okay, there'll be a video, it'll be on this and here and there. And I started doing it and it was great. And I'm like, wait, if you have any kind of hearing deficiencies or disabilities around that, I've made all this effort to make it so inclusive, and it's literally at a bare minimum. If you cannot listen to it, there's nothing you can take away from it. So yeah, got involved with speech cognitive services, got a whole pipeline. That was a weird weekend. I don't think I've ever worked that much on a weekend, where I literally, I think, would come downstairs and I was like, oh, I'll just try this right for 2 hours. Ended up being like Monday morning, and I'm like, oh wow, really just spent a whole weekend doing this. Really fun, honestly. And I've forgotten how to how involved you get when you start prototyping stuff. But it was essentially, it would listen to the whole podcast, which were 45-minute episodes. And the premise behind this was, look, yep, technologies like this exist. I'm not saying that at all. This is a very bootstrapped podcast where it's kind of done ad hoc wherever I get the time and it's edited. But there's no money to be spending. Like, I think it's $1 or $2 per minute of podcast for transcription services. And I'm like, every podcast is like an hour. That just does not make sense. So it's like, hang on a second, I keep talking about this like citizen AI and like a low code AI. Surely I can figure some solution out here. Cannot be that hard. So that was one of the things I worked on, where I basically created transcripts for every single episode and tried to make it as like automated as possible to essentially, once the podcast would go up, the file would get uploaded, and it was just do the transcription and get it going. So that's something that I was working on recently. But just to touch on kind of more, I guess, at a larger enterprise scale, Altus is one of the founding partners for Data for Good, which is a not-for-profit in Australia. So if anyone's here listening from Australia, we're always looking for volunteers. Reach out. People at Data for Good would be very, very happy to hear from you. I can guarantee you that. And they work on absolutely amazing AI for Good initiatives. Like the recent one was about saving Tassie devils, which are these little cute little furry things. And they're going extinct because they've got facial tumor disease, which cannot be fought off. And they're using image recognition to kind of figure out, hey, are any of the Tassie devils on our nature reserve getting this cancer, and how quickly can we identify it and pull them aside so that the rest of the colonies don't get infected. There's also work happening with, I think, Victor Chang Institution, which is all about heart diseases and doing genomic identification and seeing if we can figure out exactly, oh, this little twist happened here, which means that this is going to lead to this kind of a cardiac infection and so on. So yeah, loads of really, really cool stuff happening. But yeah, I was going to give that a minute. So yeah, if you need any kind of goodness in your heart and like, yes, I want some more volunteering time, reach out. Data for Good has got so many projects happening at the moment.
Yeah, right. So we could have a separate podcast itself on data on AI for good, right? I mean, there are so many things going on in that space. So, Julia?
I would say that a lot of projects we work on in one way or another will affect people's lives, right? So probably the one I would like to mention was the one related to COVID, and actually how to remove the huge load which was on the staff, like working in the testing environments. And the project was about building the system which could verify the test results which are coming, and actually how do we build the whole solution about this to make the process as smooth and as fast and as possible, and as well as reliable as possible, because a lot of medical staff was actually involved in all these like cross checks of the documents of people, like of the test results, whether it was reported correctly, etc. So that was an interesting one, like also with healthcare applications. But I would say just on top of what Akansha mentioned about like text-to-speech and speech-to-text services, this is such a powerful set of services which we could use like for people with also like the low vision, because that could be a big challenge if you want to even read about the technology, right? Something which we assume is just there, right? For a lot of people, that could not be true. And having these type of features in your applications or on your web pages can really improve the how many people do you include, how many people can actually be on your app, be getting this information, and it will give them a sense that they are no longer excluded by this technology, but rather brought in. And so, yeah.
So we are almost nearing the end of the hour, right? So there is a question from our audience here. So Tammy is asking, since there's a lot of new and upcoming emerging AI technologies, how do you deal with the possibility of failure, AI failure in your project? And what gives you that leap of faith to overcome that and still push through?
I was about to answer on the chat, but let me take it from here then. So I think we need to be humble. I mean, there are a lot of things in regards to AI that we don't know. I've been in the AI field for 20 years, and still I get like surprised by a lot of things that we are actually getting as an outcome. So first of all, it's the humility. The second thing is that that's what I was actually talking about on the previous question, is responsible AI. So when you talk about responsible AI, it's also the approach that we are going to take in regards to the way of approaching an AI problem. So responsible AI doesn't just mean that you're able to explain. It means also that you accept that eventually they're going to be some of the things that are not going to be 100% right. Don't forget that all the AI objective is just to have, high propensity or high probability to get to some results. So there's always a risk that things are not going to happen your way. So I think those are the two things that for me are going to be important. Just accept the failure or probability in the very first place and be humble in terms of, getting to the outcome.
I think Ligi talked about this at the start. Set the expectations and set them really, really low to start with, especially if it's like an AI project that's a POC. Be really, really explicit of, we don't know where this is going. And I think, don't get me wrong, there's really negative ways of doing that. It's like, oh, like it's AI, you never know what you're going to get. Like you can be really, really kind of disheartening about it, but there's ways around that of like, hey, we're going to try this thing. It's going to be great. We're going to check this out. There's like really positively explain that, but also being very careful of like, we cannot make any promises. What the result might come out with, AI is not a suitable solution, but that is a result in and of itself. And I think that's important to note. But yeah, that's a lot of my conversations that happen. It's just like, before we started, like, yes, let's do an AI project. And like, let's take a step back, which are all things like Ligi mentioned. Take the step back, makes such a big difference at the start. Set that expectation very much from the starting. If you don't do it then, like, it's so much harder to go back and then be like, oh, it's failing. Because it is harder to then, like, because they've got their expectations higher. And the project might not be failing. It might just be telling you a different solution, which in their eyes now looks like a failure.
Yeah. And just like any other tech project, there are so many reasons why a project may fail, and the reasons why a tech project may fail may be mostly due to non-technical reasons as well. So there is a human behind that tech, there is a human in front of that tech. Usually when we talk about digital transformation, we still, at some point, it's just digitization or digitalization that it ends up with. You don't talk about the end to end. You forget the people who are involved in that, like how are they going to receive this? Have you created an environment in which they will be able to adopt the technology? Will they trust the product that you've created? Which is why, I love the fact that Rita points out a responsible AI. The first thing you talk to customers is, what is the price? How much does Azure cost? Like someone talking about security, privacy, compliance, responsible, accessibility, these are the things what your end users care about. So when we talk about the implementation of AI and a potential failure, we probably need to think about reasons that extend beyond AI, because you have a human, as I said, behind that, in front of, and sometimes at some point that could be our own family, friends, and community, just with the scale of AI solutions that we are building, right?
And there's also another question from Fabrienne. She is asking, like, it's more of a trivia, right? What is the most common phrase or sentence you use when you're talking about AI to your clients or your colleagues?
It depends.
That's like my everyday phrase. Like every 30 minutes, I can count myself saying that. Like it's not even funny anymore. Or it depends, or well, right. Let me just take a step back. Like it's actually becoming annoying because I'm like, I'll start explaining something and they've already like I'm like they're like what? I'm like, right. It depends. Let me take a step back. Those are the big ones.
I think we all graduated from the same school of thought there. I think we
Yes.
all yeah.
I think the funny thing about the colleagues is if there's any scenario at work or anything like that, like, oh, just get a conscious, you'll do some AI on it. Like, let's just get a solution. There we go. Put some AI onto it. Put some intelligence on it. Like it's more of a joke internally. But most of the colleagues, it's just like if there's anything relatable to like, oh, why is this not working? Oh, just put some intelligence into it. Get a conch onto it. Which is it's just become a fun joke now.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. No, I mean, yeah. And another, trivia question is, do you think, you wish to go back to days when it was simpler, there was no AI? Do you wish that we could go back to those days or no? Like
Absolutely not.
Definitely not.
I mean, I don't think I've ever known a days where it wasn't really a thing.
I said, sorry, I'm a bit older, No, definitely not. I think like AI, I mean, we look at a lot of aspects that are kind of, impacting in a negative way, but I want to just highlight that AI did actually really make our lives much easier. Think just about all those apps that you're using with recommendation. Think about all the things that you are actually doing much easier today that used to be like so, you know, pain in whatever. So that's actually something that you have to think about how it did actually really enhance our lifestyle, our ability to get things much faster than we used to. So definitely not.
I totally agree. I mean, just having that thing in that corner, my children always ask me, so in your childhood, you never used to have Alexa. So how difficult was it? I mean, just to set the alarm to wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. I mean, think about the process. I mean, you had to have a clock which did not run out of the AA batteries, and you had to turn it. You had to set the like my 6-year-old will be like, Alexa, wake me at 5 a.m. That's it. Like she doesn't want anyone's help. I mean, how accessible can this get? So with all that is being said and done, I fully agree with Rita. There's a time without AI, but probably with all that, I'd still stay this. Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I would definitely agree with this. I remember the times when AI was not yet that much in the picture, and I would say in general, how, for example, mobile phones were not so much were not so much available, right? And it was like a totally different vibe. And now, if you look at if you look from the technology perspective, like for example, insurance claims, right? You can do this as a matter of like a few clicks in the app. You just send few pictures and you are done. And the technology which stands behind it is actually the AI, like all the extraction of the information, which we could do like from the documents and do it reliably. So, which was not really possible maybe like 20 years ago. Right now we have it, we use it every day, and we don't even notice. So I would say like it's a great tool, and especially when it's used responsibly and when it's used for good.
Yeah. Think also about mobile banking, authentication. I mean, it's
Yeah,
all our fingerprint.
everything.
This AI. So we were not able to do that before.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
most of the people who kind of tend to go towards the AI is ruining the world, or I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that every other day I spiral kind of constantly. Like I look at my sister and she's talking about it. She literally talks to me in TikTok, which I don't even understand anymore. Of like she'll just say words that are like sounds. I'm like, what are you even saying? She's like, oh, it's a TikTok thing, and walk away. Like that's a conversation sometimes, like a full conversation we have. I'm like, wow, this is the world. But a lot of people are like, oh, we would have been better off without AI. Forget that part of how much AI is actually ingrained in our worlds. Like you don't think about how if I open my phone, 90% of the time I don't have to look at my phone when I'm typing something, because my phone understands how I type and actually fixes the words I type wrong because it knows generically my normal like ways of typing. That's AI, and I mean, it's just like the little things in every single day that people have gotten so used to that they don't even think about our AI is when people kind of take it for granted. Are like, ah, it's worse.
Yes, yes, yes. Finally, right? Because we've talked that we cannot live without AI, and then we have all these wonderful platforms, cloud providers, tools which are helping us endorse this AI development culture, inclusive culture. But then, do we have a problem of plenty, right? Like there are so many out of the box AI solutions, AI toolkits, AI frameworks. So for people who are eager to get into this AI ML space, how to differentiate between and choose between so many things which you have available out there?
I mean, you could do what I did and just kind of keep trying everything. That's kind of what I've ended up doing, to be honest. But this question used to really annoy me when people would be asking, like at the start of like when I was a grad, they're like, oh, like it's great, try everything, but also you need to figure out what you're interested in to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that. Not necessarily specialized, but like know a bit more than just surface level. And it was such a weird time. I'm like, well, there's this new cool thing that just came out. And I'm like, oh, this new AutoML just came out. And I want to try that too. And I want to try like these new speech cognitive services. It is hard, but I think at the end of the day for me, I've kind of narrowed it down to being able to help other people get into a space where they can leverage the platforms around them to be able to use the services available to them. And that's the niche I find myself in, and I'm happy at the moment. Will it be here in 5 years? I don't know what I'll be doing in 5 years. Didn't expect to be doing this 5 years ago, so who knows. But a lot of it for me anyway, like my usual one is just keep trying all the little things. If you see something, just give it a shot. Like, it's not like spending an extra 2 days trying this new product is going to take away from all the other skills you've developed or really set you back. You've just learned something new on the side.
Thoughts from the rest of you? Quick closing remarks on this?
I just add from a consulting or from a customer perspective, I after having had the little experience in this field for some time, I'd say I don't think AI would be the be all the end all solution to every other problem out there. It's one of those things that I take very hold close to my heart from one of my mentors who said that for a person with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So don't think that AI is going to solve anything and everything in the world. So I think the mindset for any engineer or any data scientist is basically the problem solving capabilities. You have to look for the right tool to solve that particular problem. As much as I am very positive and optimistic and a huge proponent of low code and no code, and there might be things that cannot be solved using those technologies. There might be reasons and needs for high end tools and high end technologies. You need to know which skill sets to bring in, which people to have on the table, which tools and technologies to use. The outcome that we are trying to create in any way should have the human at the end of the loop. Like, the problem statement is we're trying to solve for the human. We're not trying to glorify AI for the sake of it. Is I think the overall theme here. So whatever it requires to solve that problem for the human, AI or not AI, and in AI, which specific tool, technique, or solution, or framework, or SDK that you need to use, you're most welcome to try that out.
Yeah, and just to resonate with what Liji just said, AI is just one piece of the puzzle. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that AI has to be taken not from a technology or from a tool perspective, but rather from a solutioning kind of approach. So when you talk about AI, think first big about the solution that you're trying to figure out. And again, AI might be one piece of the solution, but you might have to figure out all the other pieces. So I think try to always take a step back, as Akansha said earlier, and try to really understand what is it that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, and I would probably just add on top of that. So whatever you are building, keep in mind that it might be impacting someone, right? And whenever you're reading about different technologies, it's often useful to know its limits and the cases where it can give you really good results, and which could be the cases where it's appropriate to use it. But also it's useful to think about how this technology can be bringing something, I would say enhancing the skewness, for example, in the data which we have, right? And it's important to think about this, because the moment you pay your attention on this, there is a higher likelihood that you will take more to prevent this from happening. Right, and this is something what you have to do consciously. And in terms of learning, there are lots of things. Just try. I would say I often try out something which interests me more, and oftentimes I end up going for example, to try one library, and then you end up trying 3 or 5 of them. So, and that's just the nature of how things work in this space. So it's absolutely fine. You will be going through a lot of materials, but I would say you try to use the technology to your advantage, because we have lots of things available, and you can use most of them.
Right, so we've actually crossed our sorry for that, ladies. I know we are all time bound. We have our commitments to our customers, clients, but absolutely, thank you so much for joining me today. I have a whole laundry list of more questions I could have asked. Lot of other topics which could be we could have brainstormed on, but we keep it for some other time. And I'll absolutely be privileged to have these sessions with you again sometime later. Right. And for our audience members, if you have any questions, if you have any other thoughts you want to share, you can always connect with us on our LinkedIn handles, LinkedIn accounts, which I think are available on the Meetup page. And that's it. Have a good day, everyone. And yep, all the best to whatever endeavors we are going to face in the rest of our of today.
Thank you, Priyanka, and thank you, Sandra, for the organization.
Thank you,
Sandra.
Priyanka.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take
for
care.
everyone for tuning
you,
in, and
Sarah.
thank you to Dr. Julie, Lizzie, Rita, and Akanksha for speaking today. All the links you'll need are in the comment section there, including the survey and upcoming events at the React Sydney, and also the meetup page with everybody who was speaking today's LinkedIn profiles and a bit more about their bio. So thank you again. Have a good rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning. We'll see you next time for another Microsoft Reactor Livestream event. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.